Okay, what are we making today?
A caltrop.
What?
A caltrop.
A caltrop.
Caltrop. Caltrop.
What is a caltrop?
It's a it's a metal device that was used in medieval times to basically stop anybody from invading you, for a lack of a better term.
You got some bad neighbors or something?
Oh, well, I got one or two that's always photographing me and videotaping me.
Okay, so what materials are we going to need to make this caltrop?
We're going to be using some mild steel square bar. This is actually a remnant of someone's wrought iron fence that they wanted to get rid of, and part of it was given to me as a gift, but we're going to use this, cut it up into some sections, and turn it into our medieval device of pain.
All right, let's go.
So to begin, we're going to take the square bar and we're going to mark off the amount of material we're going to be using. Now, one of these caltrops was originally designed to where you had about a 2-inch spike. This is a rather small little device. So we're going to go ahead and mark this off into because it's going to spike on either side, we're going to make it 4-inch segments between them, leaving a little space in between each of the two bars for my cutting tool. So let's go ahead and do that. So now that we've got this done, the next step is to use some modern age power tools to zip through this material and cut it into 2 equal sections.
Hello there. Here we see a humble employee. We'll call him Ethan. If you look closely, you'll see Ethan is applying safety goggles and hearing protection. Ethan is safe. Be like Ethan.
There we go. There's your 2 pieces. So it's time to pull out the forge now, because we're going to try and shape the metal into some points, which will give me a little bit more to hold on to whenever I start grinding and doing some of the final shaping. This is a very small rivet forge. It's designed to be worked on just small little things, and the basic components to it is you're going to start a fire here in what's called the pot in the center. You turn the crank to give it oxygen, and it will create coals and an intense heat that will allow you to put metal into it and raise that metal up to really high temperature so that it moves smoothly whenever you hammer on it. And so to start the forge, what I always do is I take some papers from school that have been discarded. Instead of them being put in the trash and thrown away, I'm going to give them new life. Today I'm going to be flaming this round of forging with some outdated disciplinary standards. So just recently Kentucky changed all of the social studies standards for it, so this is the old Kentucky economics and cause and effect and conflict and compromise that are no longer useful to us. So let's give it a second life, shall we? I fired up some charcoal last night by using some old paint cans, so we're going to use that to help start off the fire. And it's just wood that's had a lot of the excess materials already burned out of it, and it helps it light much quicker. So that's going to be the main fuel, and it's a tradition of mine to take from the last firing of the forge to actually be the first starting coal. So I'm going to go get that right now. So this is what was left from last time. So we're going to throw that on top to be some of the starting fuel. Just fire it up. So our bed of coals isn't ready yet for serious forging, but the fire is hot enough that we can go ahead and start warming up the metal, because it's going to take a while for the metal to actually heat up. So let's go ahead and get our pieces now. I like to work one piece of metal at a time, because in a forge like this, it can easily get out of hand and you can melt your metal.
Okay, so while you're heating that up, what exactly is this caltrop?
It's not something that most people would be able to recognize just from the name. You've probably seen it before if you've ever watched like a James Bond or some kind of action movie with a car chase in it. Really, the caltrop, the one that we're making anyways, is based on the medieval style. This would have been a device that a blacksmith could have easily whipped together pretty quick in large quantities. And it's really two beams that are put together in C shapes so that you can throw it out onto a battlefield, an open area, in front of your army. And whenever the enemy cavalry or foot soldiers are charging in at you or moving across the field, they're going to run through a patch of spikes where they step on them. It was a way to basically maim people and horses before they got to your army. It's really quite nasty and terrifying, and I talk about medieval stuff in my class, and that's why I'm making it for them. But it's a very useful little tool, and it even shows up, like I said, in a lot of modern-day movies where in a car chase scene you might see James Bond or, I don't know, Jason Bourne or somebody like that throw out a spiky little object in a small grouping behind their own car so that the car that's chasing after them will run over it and it blows all their tires. So my ember bed is beginning to get set up nicely. This is our piece of metal. It's turned kind of a yellow color where the paint that was on it has burned off. We're now at a point where we can really start turning up the heat, and it's going to start changing color and turning into a nice orangish yellow color. Whenever it gets there, we'll know we're ready to kind of spread it out, and it'll move rather easily whenever we hit it with a hammer. Round one, so we're going to continue to taper it down into a point.
And how many times do you repeat this process?
Too many. It's a lot. It's until it gets into a rough shape that I'm wanting. So, and it'll have to be on both sides. So once we're done with one side, we'll flop it over and do it to the other, and then we can start working on the second piece. So it's a serious arm workout.
So before you all at home consider trying to maim your enemies on the battlefield with a caltrop, realize that it's going to take a lot of time and energy. It's an investment. Invest in your battle tools.
It's amazing home insurance, but it costs something. So now that we're getting down to more of a point, I'm going to go in with a smaller hammer so I can do some more fine detail, and then we'll flip it around and do the other side. So now it's to a pretty fine point. We'll put a more finer one on later, but now it's time to go and put it in the fire and do the opposite side. All right, so we've got 2 spikes on either end, and it's quite symmetrical. So the next step is to go ahead and do the exact same thing we did here to the piece that's already being thrown in the forge, and then we can work on piecing the 2 together into the final shape. Now we're going to make this piece look as close as we can to that piece. So I got one slightly longer than the other, but no problem, we'll take that out in the grind. Now that we've got the 2 of them basically symmetrical, then we can go ahead and start cutting the groove that will allow us to fit the 2 pieces together.
And of course, we've got Penny here, our production supervisor. She's a real slave driver.
So now that I've got my 2 symmetrical spikes worked out, the next step is to get rid of the extra height that I have on this one. I made it a little too long using the grinding wheel that we've used beforehand. Then we're going to take that same tool and start carving grooves, square grooves, halfway through this one and halfway through this one, to where that whenever we lay them together, they should meet and form kind of a cross section or a T shape that we can then use to bend into its final form. So now that the measurements are made, now we can take our pieces outside to the grinder and begin cutting grooves out of that space. So now that we have some guiding grooves cut on either side, if you take a look down here, we're now going to go to a bench grinder on the inside and carve out the middle sections that are left here so that the 2 pieces fit together kind of like puzzle pieces.
It's like an adult jigsaw.
Yes, but more metal.
Ooh.
So the pieces of metal are actually too hot to handle right now. So I've got me a little bucket. I'm going to take it over to the water spigot. We're going to give it a nice cool bath so that we can get right back to grinding.
All about that grind.
Much better. Alright, so I've cut out a lot of that middle section, but as you can see there's a small hump right in the center of each of them. I'm hoping that I can get rid of that using this angle grinder.
Did that thing seem to do the trick?
I think so. Yeah, that got rid of most of the groove.
Nice.
So once we get the other one hollowed out, we should be able to fit the 2 pieces together.
All right.
So now we've cut out both of the pieces. They're not amazingly beautiful, but they don't have to be. We're going to see if they actually fit together as they're supposed to. Looks like I may have to do a little bit more work. They're not fitting exactly as they're supposed to. So I'll keep grinding around on the sides, and then we'll be able to hopefully get to where we can piece them together.
So I guess you're saying the groove is good, but it's not quite in the pocket.
Yes. All right, let's see if it works now. There we go. Nice.
It's like a sick ninja star.
Yep. So the next step is going to be, now that I've got the pieces that fit together, I'm then going to attach them together. But to do that, I'm going to use some really modern help, a welder. We're going to try to kind of fuse these two pieces of metal. It's going to take a little bit, and as a safety precaution, I'm going to remind Andrew, my brother over here, that he does not need to look at this light.
Avert your eyes.
So, slight problem. I have run out of welding wire. So, before we can continue and finish up this project, I need a quick moment to go and change out the wire. I'll be right back.
Okay, so this has been about a 25-minute process getting this bad boy changed. On a scale of 1 to volcano, how frustrated are you, Ethan?
Small trimmer. I'm a trimmer. There's a trimmer. There's something there.
He's shaking. Ooh.
Yeah, it was annoying. It was annoying, but not terrible.
Got it fixed and ready to go now, right?
Yes, we should be good to go.
All
We
right.
may continue forward.
Welding part 2.
It's not beautiful in any sense of the word as far as like technical welding, but it will do the job. All right, I'm going to give it a nice cold bath to go ahead and cool it down, and then we're going to take it over to the grinder, finalize the points on it, and then it's going back into the forge for its final round of heating, and we're going to bend the metal into its final shape.
Ooh.
That's got all 4 spikes to nice points. The final step now is to take it out into the forge, and we're going to bring it into its final shape, and it'll be ready to go. Here is our devastating caltrop. One solid hunk of metal, and the idea is that we're going to bend them into like really soft C shapes on both sides, but from opposite sides. So think of a crescent moon this way and a crescent moon this way. And the whole idea, the way you test it, is whenever you create these shapes, you can throw these out on the ground, and no matter how they land or where they land, they will have one spike sticking straight up. So if I get this bent the right way, we should have us a deadly weapon. Let's see if we can figure out how to do it. It's beginning to shape up. Now we're going to do the opposite to the other side, but we're going to curve it in a reverse fashion. So here's our caltrop. I've got kind of too heavy of a bend in it right now, and it needs a little straightening up because some of it's a little bit wobbly. But after I straighten out the tips of the spikes, we're going to give it a test run, and I think it's going to work rather well.
Last one.
Last one. Okay. It is finished. First ever caltrop brought back from the medieval time. Let's go test it out.
Oh yeah.
All right, so here it is, the finished caltrop. It's all cooled down. These were, like I said, made in medieval times originally to stop foot soldiers and horses from charging and advancing on your position. But something like this takes a long time to be placed out. Whenever they wanted to make this design, they wanted to make it in such a way you could just throw barrels of them out into a field and scatter them. And no matter where they landed or how they landed, they always landed with a spike facing upward. It doesn't matter where you go. So anytime a horse or a person would come through, they would have a chance of stepping on that spike and maiming them. No matter how it lands, it's always going to end up with some kind of spike facing upward. It's a really cool design, very cool, very effective, and now you can make one for yourself if you so desire. But your neighbors might not like it, especially if they own horses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.